Good afternoon, everybody. Afternoon, day 3. This afternoon we're going to have a look at the first and the third of the enlightenment factors, the Sambojjhangas. The Sambojjhangas are given in the Satipatthana text as factors of enlightenment. These are the factors or the causes of enlightenment, if you like. Bojjhanga. Bo is body, awakening or knowing. Anga is a causative factor. So there are 7 enlightenment factors. In our practice of satipatthana, these enlightenment factors get developed. And we'll go through them this week and get to know them as we're practicing. And the first one is enlightenment factor of mindfulness, or sati sambojjhanga. Excuse me. The generally accepted translation of sati is mindfulness. It's a word that's becoming quite common these days. Other translations, awareness, which I like to use. Mindfulness, awareness. One of my teachers used to use the translation observing power, the ability to observe. We can also use the word witness, to bring bare attention to something, if you like. When mindfulness starts to become strong, when it starts to be able to qualify as a factor of enlightenment, it's dynamic and it's confrontive. It confronts the objects and it penetrates into them. Our mindfulness, when we're developing this observing power, we need to be able to penetrate not only the present moment, but penetrate the object of the present moment. Consciousness is always arising with an object. We need to be able to generate the enlightenment factor of mindfulness to assist consciousness so that it knows in a very special way. Our mindfulness should leap onto the object. It should cover the object. It should penetrate the object. Whether that object is a physical sensation like the rise and the fall, or whether it's a mental mind state, such as a feeling or aversion or thinking, we need to be able to penetrate. We need to be able to directly know the object as it's arising and passing away. The characteristic of mindfulness is non-superficiality. Mindfulness doesn't just float. We're not just being generally aware of things. We're not just being open and spacious. That's a type of presence which is useful. But when our mindfulness develops and becomes stronger, we want it to be able to penetrate in, especially into the movement of the rise and the fall. That's our main object, our primary object of focus at the moment in the practice. We want it to be able to penetrate right into the rise and fall movement. When we can do that, we'll start to see the specific characteristics inherent in the rise and the fall. We'll move beyond any conceptual ideas and we'll penetrate into another level or another layer of perception so that we can really start to see the intrinsic qualities of tension and warmth, pressure, movement, vibration, all those physical sensations which are going on. To say that mindfulness is non-superficial means it doesn't stay on the surface. It sinks in. We need to make our mindfulness penetrative. We need to be able to sink in. The simile given in the old text is someone throwing a cork into a river. Okay, cork, something that floats along the river. It's superficial. Whereas if we throw a stone into a river, it sinks. It sinks down onto the riverbed and really experiences the river. If rocks can experience, but It's surrounded by the object, not just merely floating on the surface. When we develop powerful and continuous mindfulness, it ensures that we penetrate each object of the present moment. We want to penetrate each object so that we know it clearly. It's in the knowing that letting go takes place. We're noting what's there, we're knowing that object. That means we're knowing it in a way that we don't get caught in it. We're knowing it without its subjectified aroma, if you like. The mind then lets go of it because it's not interested in it anymore, because it doesn't find it interesting, because craving can no longer use it as a foundation for self. It's let go. In the rise and the fall of the abdomen, we have to be very firm. Focus your attention, direct your attention, direct your mindfulness. You'll need to use a fair bit of energy to do this, constantly applying and directing your awareness down to that rise and fall sensation until it starts to come up closer. You get closer and closer and closer until things start to become clearer and clearer. It's not like you're out there and it's kind of vague. In the beginning stages, it's vague and cloudy. There's some movement. But as we pay more and more attention, as we're firmer and more persistent and more continuous in our application, then mindfulness grows stronger and it penetrates deeply into the movement. Once we've been able to master this skill of aiming and directing our awareness to a particular location, then we'll be able to do it in all locations. In fact, our practice becomes much more open, much more about just activating our awareness in the present moment. Mindfulness knows whatever is there. The function of mindfulness is non-disappearance. It means we don't forget about what we're doing. One of the functions of mindfulness. We really stay with the object. We keep the objects in view, neither forgetting or allowing them to disappear. The manifestation of mindfulness, as we've just said, is confrontation. It's like we're walking down a small alleyway and there's someone at the other end. When they're 100 meters away, you can see that there's a person there, but you can't quite make out their face or the details of their face. Maybe you don't know if it's a man or a woman. But as you start walking closer and they're walking closer to you, the details become more and more clear. Until in that little alleyway, you have to walk past each other. You'll get to see that person quite clearly. And mindfulness, when it gets to the level where it may be called an enlightenment factor, is confrontive in this way. Each object is seen very clearly. It's seen so clearly that it's impossible for craving to enter into the moment. It acts as a barrier around that object, and it's let go of. A new object arises. Mindfulness penetrates it, confronts it, understands it, creates space around it with wisdom so that it can drop, it can pass away. Our meditation practice is one of continuous application of these qualities of mind. Noting, knowing, letting go, until the whole lot is just rapidly passing away. It feels like we're not getting stuck in anything. It can feel like a waterfall of phenomena that's just passing away continuously. So try to get face to face with the objects. It's not enough to just be mildly aware of something. We need to get in there close. We need to really direct our attention and our awareness down to the rise and the fall of the abdomen, or to the whole body. We need to direct our awareness, direct our awareness to the attention of the whole sitting posture. Try to grasp it all at once. If that's too much for you, just try to grasp the head, and then try to grasp the upper torso, and then try to grasp the lower torso, and then start to join it all together. Don't worry about if it's not clear in the beginning. It becomes clear as your awareness becomes more and more continuous. As we're able to do this, repeated successes, you get closer looks at things. More details, finer details appear. Concepts are a thing of the past. We start to deal with natural and raw phenomena before it gets processed through the subjectivity process. And we start to let things go. What would normally stay for a few seconds or even a minute now doesn't stand a chance. Multiple objects are arising and passing away within a second. Nothing sticks when this awareness is established. So we're penetrating, we're confronting, and we're not forgetting about what's going on. Mindfulness becomes firmly established on the objects of meditation, and things start to become clearer. The nature of the mind and body process starts to reveal itself to us. At this point, defilements have a very difficult time in penetrating this barrier of mindfulness. Little thoughts and restlessness, the hindrances start to fade away. We spoke about them this morning. When we become skillful in noting and knowing the hindrances, they start to drop off. There starts to be some purity in the mind. Things become clearer, the mind becomes bright. When this mindfulness is persistently and repeatedly developed, wisdom is activated. And we get a true knowledge, we get a Vipassana insight into the nature of the mind and body process. The intrinsic characteristics of mental and physical phenomena are clearly understood. We see the relationship, the causal relationship between mental and physical phenomena. And as our mindfulness develops stronger and stronger, more persistently, our wisdom develops, and then spontaneous insight will start to arise. It arises automatically without you having to do anything once all the conditions are in place. And we start to see beyond the specific characteristics of the phenomena, and we penetrate into the general characteristics of all phenomena. We turn to the mark of impermanence. Our mind sees just impermanence quite clearly, or our mind sees dukkha quite clearly, or we see non-self quite clearly, not in a conceptual way, not in a way that we have to think about it, but in a way that is spontaneous and clear. It's a flash of lightning. We'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow. Well, this enlightenment factor of mindfulness, it's one of the assistants or one of the helpers, one of the factors that leads the consciousness into awakening. We can consider the consciousness as the king or the queen, if you like, and the enlightenment factors are the ministers doing the jobs, doing the work that the king requires of them. Mindfulness is the minister that pulls the consciousness into the present moment and penetrates the object that is presently arising. The other enlightenment factors have their jobs to do as well, and we'll talk about them this week so that we can get a clearer picture of what we're developing here. Excuse me. The cause of mindfulness is nothing more than mindfulness itself. It's a momentum, it's a continuity. It builds on itself. One moment of awareness becomes another moment of awareness, becomes a further moment of awareness, continually strengthening each other. So incline your mind to activating your awareness in the present moment. This is an important part of the practice. It takes a lot of effort to be activating, and we'll talk about that in a moment. With the development of this mindfulness, we don't become absent-minded. The mind doesn't wander off so much. The mind actually becomes interested in the rise and the fall. The rise and the fall in itself is not a very interesting object to watch. It's fairly boring, actually. It's associated with neutral feeling. There's no pleasantness there, there's no unpleasantness there. So you really have to develop your awareness and wisdom continuously to be able to stick with it. Once you get up close though, and some of you will start to experience this, it does become very interesting indeed. Once you penetrate into the movement, it's maybe the most fascinating thing you've seen all year. So it does become very, very interesting, but you'll need to continuously direct your attention in that way. As a meditator here on the retreat, there really is only one thing that's required of you, and that's to activate this present moment awareness continuously. Whatever's happening, whatever is arising, whether it's difficult sensations in the body, or whether it's some unpleasant mental states, or whether it's you're having a thinking attack, or your mind is wandering, whatever is going on, your job is to stand fast, stand still, and acknowledge what is going on. Try to be a big, strong tree in the storm of mental and physical phenomena. You don't want to be being pushed around by the wind. You'll start to experience dukkha here and there. Try to be mindful and continuously aware. Now, this is the first factor of enlightenment. It's all about the power of observation. It's all about just using bare attention to observe what is exactly going on and being penetrative with this. We're not here to analyze, we're not here to investigate, or should I say, we're not here to think about the various objects. This is not a thinking exercise. Meditation is not about thinking. Meditation is about observing. In fact, thinking is an object that is to be observed. Thinking doesn't lead to wisdom. Thinking is an object of wisdom. Wisdom can know it clearly and let it go. So it doesn't actually take you to insight. It's something that needs to be understood. That's the first of the enlightenment factors. Now we'll have a look at the third enlightenment factor. The third enlightenment factor is known as virya. In case you're wondering about the second enlightenment factor, investigation of states, we'll have a look at that tomorrow morning. But we'll jump on to the third one. It's the enlightenment factor of energy. Putting forth energy and effort, developing the power of the mind that keeps meditating. Virya. Virya is the energy that is used to direct, first of all, our awareness into the present moment, and secondly, to direct our awareness towards the object that is rising and penetrating. This is a type of energy that we need to develop. It's a type of effort, and it doesn't just happen naturally. You will need to put forth a lot of energy if you're going to meditate successfully. In the Pali, virya is defined as the state of the heroic ones. Those heroes of the legends are always people that have great energy. They have great ability. They're hardworking. They have the capacity to be heroic in whatever they do. We all know these types of people that work very diligently or put forth a lot of effort in whatever they do. There's generally success waiting for them. It's not because they're lucky, it's because they've done the work. When you do the work, the results show themselves. Putting in effort is just a condition that is necessary. It's the effort to activate your awareness in the present moment. Think about that. You need to be activating it all the time. We can add that to our little 3-word mem. Activating, noting, knowing, and letting go. We're activating our awareness in the present moment. We're noting what's there. We're knowing and seeing it clearly, so we create space around it, and it's let go of. In the Satipatthana text, these 3 qualities are known as atapi sati sampajanya. Ardent, mindful, and fully aware. Excuse me. The characteristic of effort is an enduring patience in the face of difficulties. It's not easy to be activating your awareness in the present moment. It's not easy to be present continuously. It's much easier to just let the mind go wandering here and there. Let it go thinking in the resorts that it likes to go to. We all have our own things that we like to think about, where it likes to go. Likes to go and hang out in the future a little bit, or likes to go and visit that person or that country, and goes here and there. It starts to think about its work or its school or its friends or its lovers. That's easy. You just let it off the leash and it runs around by itself. It's much more difficult to keep pulling it back into the present moment. But I assure you, you'll be well rewarded if you can do this, if you continually apply your energy and effort to be mindful and present in the moment. Energy is that which gives us the ability to see to the end whatever it is that we start off with. It gives us courage, it gives us strength, patience, and it gives us acceptance with whatever is going on. Patience and acceptance are necessary right from the beginning of the practice. Coming on a retreat like this, you've all sacrificed other things that you could be doing. There's an opportunity cost for being here. Use your time wisely. Put forth the effort so that it's well worth it. On a retreat like this, we sleep less than usual. We spend the day sitting in a hall, cross-legged on the floor, watching our abdomen rising and falling. It takes effort. It takes a great deal of effort. The mind can be dissatisfied. It's missing its little delights that it normally indulges in. Maybe you're thinking about your phone. Maybe you're thinking about whatever's going on in your social scene. You need to have courageous effort and forbearance in the face of difficulties. Energy is what makes us stand up. It's what gives us strength so that we don't wither, so that we don't become weak, we don't fade away. It's easy to be weak and just flip-flop around the place, let the mind go wandering here and there, drink a few organic smoothies and call yourself spiritual. That's an easy thing to do. Fun too. Nice. Yeah. It's okay. But you'll need more energy than that if you want to awaken to the truth. of the Buddha's teaching. Effort has the function of supporting. It supports our practice. It supports the mind when we're under attack. If we're under attack from physical sensations in the body, we've been holding a single posture for an hour or more. We start to be attacked by physical sensations. The elements are restless. One of them will pop out. There'll be some hardness somewhere. There'll be some burning somewhere. There'll be some stabbing somewhere. It'll be uncomfortable. Or the mind will become restless. Effort is necessary to overcome restlessness. Sometimes the mind can be like a wild horse, trying to pull you here, pull you there. Sometimes it's just bored. You'll need effort to come out of boredom. You'll need effort to come out of tiredness or laziness. It's the only thing that can bring you out of it. You'll be surprised in your rise and fall practice. If you just put it in an extra 10% effort, the results will be 50% more. It's very amazing. You have a look, you try it. You put forth you think you're on your edge, you've got to live on your edge when you're meditating. You've got to be really going for it. Not results, not trying to get results, but just putting forth your best effort to be as mindful, to be as continuous as possible, to be as present as possible, to be internalized as possible. And that's your only jobs. Your only job is to be continuously aware of the present moment and the object that's arising for consciousness. That's all you have to do. Nothing else is important. Let go of all the other little activities that you've been thinking about. If you can just fulfill these very basic conditions, the results will flow automatically. You won't be able to stop them. It's important that you have encouragement and inspiration on this path. It's wonderful to meditate together like this. As a group, it inspires us. Sometimes when we feel a bit lazy, like to keep lying down for a little bit longer. You see everyone else heading to the hall? Okay, get up there. When you see everybody else sitting late into the night, it gives you power. When you see everyone here in the morning, it gives you power. Not easy to do by yourself. Try meditating 17 or 18 hours a day by yourself in your room. Go and rent a hotel room and see what happens. You'll be finding the middle way. What's that? Putting your head in the middle of the pillow. Oh, very nice. That'll be your middle way. Here, we're in a group. We're practicing together. And it's supportive. It's inspirational. You'll find it's much better to meditate in this way. So meditation does take a great deal of energy. You will really have to work hard to continuously establish your awareness from moment to moment without a break. There's no room for laziness. The Buddha spoke of energy as a type of heat. When the mind becomes energized, it dries up any defilements that may be arising. Greed, hatred, and delusion start to disappear. The hindrances that arise so frequently in the beginning stages of our meditation get pushed aside as our energy and effort starts to rise. That's what moves them. That's what shifts them. It's our energy to be present, our energy to penetrate the presently arising object, to see it clearly and to let it go. When this effort is strong, the mind can vaporize the defilements, the hindrances, before we even get touched by them. You'll be able to note things and they'll just slip away when the power of energy is there, when energy qualifies to be a factor of enlightenment. This energy helps us in our efforts to awaken. The 4 right efforts, or sama vayama, the 4 right efforts of the Noble Eightfold Path. There are 4 things that we need to be directing our effort towards. Any unwholesome things, we're blocking and preventing them from arising. If they've already arisen, then we strive to let go of our attachment or our subjectification of them. And we're developing positive mental states which help us on the way to enlightenment. If those haven't arisen yet, we make them arise. And if they've already started to arise, then we help them to grow. And this is our right effort. Constantly assessing, using yoniso manasikara, wise attention, having a look at the whys and wherefores, having a look at the reasons and the causes behind our activities and our mental states, dividing them. This is useless, to be removed and let go of. This is beneficial and helpful, to be developed. We're doing that. We're assessing the situation at all times. On the retreat here, it's a special environment, and we can help each other in the practice, but the real practice is done by yourself, in your own effort, in your own energy, to recognize, oh, this is a state which is helpful to meditation, I should develop this, and this is a state which is unhelpful to meditation. This should be removed and let go of. Be diligent, have effort, and if you notice that something's arising that's not helpful, get rid of it. Yeah, don't push it away, don't reject it, that's aversion, but note it. Note it and know it so it's seen clearly. When it's seen clearly, it naturally passes away, and that's the mode of observation that we want to get into. When the mind becomes energized, when mindfulness is penetrative, when it's sinking into the object and confronting the objects face to face, it can feel like it's very close. They come up very close. Bang, known, 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 passing away, passing away, passing away. The mind is able to jump from object to object. My initial instruction of you to note things once a second, or as we're doing now, rising, falling, sitting, rising, falling, sitting, 36 times a minute if you can. Dun, 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 dun. That will seem very slow when the mind becomes energized. In fact, at this stage in the practice, we can add another object if you'd like to. We can add the object of sitting. We're already doing sitting. The object of touching. Yeah. Rising, falling, sitting, touching. Be aware of the touching. Be aware of your buttocks touching the mat or touching the seat, touching the stool. There's another object there. There's a sensation of your butt touching the mat. Become aware of that. What is that sensation? Is it soft? Is it hard? Is it warm? Is it itchy? What is that sensation? You can include that into the mix. You'll need to be fast. Rising, falling, sitting, touching. Rising, falling, sitting, touching. Rising, falling, sitting, touching. It may be a little bit difficult at this stage, but if you'd like to really get your energy going, if you'd really like to increase your efforts, then start to note 4 things within a cycle. And then you'll be doing 48 things a minute. More than fast enough for you to start to see the initial stages of the Dhamma. The mind will become skillful. You're fully exercising it. You're moving from, we start with the rise and fall. That's bench pressing 20 kilos. We add another object, the sitting. That's bench pressing 30 kilos. Yeah, you can start to feel the strain, but the muscles start to grow with 30 kilos. Now, put it into 40 kilos and start to press that. Yeah. Feel the tension, feel the strain. The first couple of days that you go to the gym and do your 40 kilos, yeah, it's much harder. Yeah, it takes a lot more effort. But after a few weeks, yeah, you can do 40 and it's no problem at all. Your muscles have grown. And so it is with the mind as well. The more effort you put into energetically noting continuously, the mind grows in strength. This energy develops, this ability to be able to endure patiently, forbear whatever is arising. You'll be able to note it. You'll find it's actually quite difficult to get stuck in the story once the momentum has started to roll. Things will just pass away, start to pass away. So if you'd like to increase your sitting meditation, I encourage you to do so. Rising, falling, sitting, the whole body, all at once, and then the sensation either on the left side or the right side of your butt cheek, or you can alternate between them. Rising, falling, sitting, touching. Rising, falling, sitting, touching. Like that, and you go around, and that becomes your main object. If anything else arises, any thoughts or any other physical sensations or a loud noise or something like that, you can quickly note it and then come back. Yeah. We don't want to spend too much time going out there and noting the secondary objects. We want to stay with the main object. The main object is that bench pressing. We're building those muscles. We're building the strength and the quality of our observation in the present moment until it becomes strong enough to be open. And then we can open up to a more choiceless awareness where all objects are allowed to arise and pass away, and you'll be able to catch all of them. In fact, you'll be able to live free from all of them in the present moment. So this type of energy is really very important. It keeps away the hindrances and it keeps away the dukkha. But you will need to train for it. The Buddha's teaching is described by the Buddha himself. He says this is a gradual training, a gradual practice, and a gradual progress. It doesn't all happen at once. You'll need to build up to it. Luckily, we have 21 days to do that. So we can build up. Build up. Don't be in a rush. Be patient. Be tolerant with yourself. Don't think that I don't get it, I can't get it, I can't do it, I'm hopeless. It's not like that at all. It just takes effort. That's all it is. It's all about applying effort and energy. Energetic mindfulness, continuous mindfulness allows penetration into the objects of observation. If we can continuously keep this awareness going, the mind enters into samadhi. We become concentrated. We become stabilized in this mode of observation. As we let go of more and more, the mind becomes stiller and stiller, more calm, more balance. Actually, less effort is even needed to maintain our awareness in the present moment. It can seem like it's becoming automatic. In fact, we can do the practice and it does become automatic. After a long retreat, sometimes it can feel like you can't turn it off. The thing just keeps noting and knowing and letting go. It goes into automatic mode, and it will start to do that by the end of the retreat. So, energy is essential in all things. We need to be able to bring forth this energy in times of difficulties and times of distress. When we get worried about stuff, when we start to take things personally, when the phenomena is becoming mine, that's when we need to activate our energy so that we can note it and know it and let it go. For this energy to be a factor of enlightenment, a sambojjhanga, there needs to be the quality of persistence. We need to be very persistent, very continuous. Don't allow any laziness into the picture. At the end of the retreat, you can be as lazy as you like. You can go and find a hammock somewhere and lie in it and look at the ocean and the palm trees and drink your coconut juice. That's fine. But whilst you're here, please put forth as much effort as you can to really be present, to really be internal, to really see things as they really are. And we talk like this to give you some encouragement. I'm not trying to build any expectations for you. Drop any thoughts of getting results. Just put your total commitment behind putting the conditions in place. Allow these conditions to set themselves up. That's all we're doing. We're gathering, and we have this experience to gather. We know what is absolutely necessary and what is not necessary. Continuity, silence, internalization, continuous presence, noting, knowing, letting go. This is all that is required of you whilst you're here. Excuse me. So the Buddha was quite brief in describing how this effort on energy arises. He says quite simply, it arises from wise attention. It's when we attend to things carefully that energy starts to arise. When we start to know, oh, this is unhelpful and unbeneficial and useless, we can let it go. When we start to recognize, oh, this is a helpful mental state, we develop it further. When we have this discrimination. In the beginning of our practice, the first few days of the retreat, it is tough. You are tired. You are hungry. You want other things. But as you keep going, you'll find it's easier and easier to maintain your presence. You'll find it's easier and easier not to think about the outside world and the delights that are going on around the island here. When you're armed with internal and external encouragements, you'll make an effort to be present. So I encourage you to do that. The mind will grow refreshed, bright and clear, and you'll have a direct experience of nature. So please be persistent, please be continuous. There's something else that I want to talk about today, and it relates a little bit to the practice of developing effort and energy. Remember that this is an enlightenment factor. This is a factor which causes enlightenment to take place. It's not just a little thing. Mindfulness, energy, and investigation. These are the first three, and we'll talk about investigation tomorrow. Investigation is another word for wisdom, if you like. These three spin upon each other. Effort to activate our awareness, and then mindful, that awareness is able to penetrate the object, and then wisdom knows it and sees it clearly, so it creates space around it, and then it passes away. Energetically activating, noting what's there, creating space, letting go. Three mental factors start to spin on each other. These are the first three enlightenment factors. This is where the practice is really happening. The other things are just objects. Always remember that meditation is the development of specific mental states. It's not about trying to get yourself into a stillness or a calmness or feeling happy or any of those things. Specifically developing certain mental factors which are the conditions for the arising of other mental factors. The remaining 4 enlightenment factors of rapture, tranquility, concentration, and equanimity will develop once these first 3 are up and running. Once you're able to energetically activate your awareness in the present, when you're able to note very clearly and penetrate into the presently arisen object, and when wisdom can discern what it is and not subjectify it or not allow subjectification to take place, then you've achieved these first 3 enlightenment factors. Then the letting go takes place, the freedom takes place in stages, step by step, as we go along. Now, some of you, I imagine, are starting to feel some unpleasant physical sensations. It's very natural and normal on a retreat like this. We sit many hours a day. It's not always comfortable to sit cross-legged on the floor for most of us. And so there are sometimes some painful physical sensations arising. These are objects which also need to be noted and known, that need to be let go of. The Buddha says that unwholesome intention leads to results to be experienced as painful feeling. Wholesome intention leads to results to be experienced as pleasant feeling. This is the law of karma. Wholesome intentions lead to results which are associated with pleasant feeling. This is where pleasant feeling comes from. Wholesome intentions. Unwholesome intentions lead to resultants which are joined with unpleasant feeling. This is where unpleasant feeling is coming from. Unpleasant feeling is a result of unwholesome intentions. So if you're experiencing some painful feelings in the legs, I suspect that you've had some unwholesome intentions somewhere along the line. We all have. We all have a vast store of wholesome and unwholesome intentions. And we'll talk more about that in the coming days. What do you do with painful feelings in your legs or in your back or in your knees? We spoke the other day about changing the posture. Try to keep your posture as long as you possibly can, until the point where it becomes unbearable. And then if you need to change, you can change, but make sure you change with wise attention. Make sure you're attending to the change in posture, knowing really what you are doing. That means knowing that you are curing suffering by changing. Don't change with aversion in one hand and pleasantness in the other. Don't try and reject unpleasantness and seek out something pleasant. Seek out a new posture that's going to be pleasant, that's going to be more happy, that's going to be better. Rather, see it as a process of having to cure suffering. In that way, defilements won't so readily arise. Unpleasant feeling or unpleasant physical sensations which are associated with unpleasant feeling, we should say, arise when the elements get out of balance. And they sometimes do that. On a long retreat like this, you'll get all kinds of physical sensations. There will be stiffness in the legs and in the back. Sometimes there can be very sharp, painful sensations. Sometimes it can feel like someone's stabbing you in the back. Sometimes it feels like your ankle is burning. Sometimes it feels like your bones are going to crack. It's like that sometimes. It's okay. We're not going to let you die in the meditation hall here. Oh, she died of meditation. No, it hasn't happened yet. I don't think it's going to happen here this week. So please don't be worried about your physicality. The thing will endure. You'll have it. It'll be much harder to get rid of it than just having a painful sensation in your leg. When these sensations arise, and they do, and they will arise, rising, falling, sitting, touching, rising, falling, sitting, touching, rising, falling, sitting, touching, rising, falling. And then you may notice you have a bit of an ache in the knee, or it's feeling a little bit hard, or it's feeling a little bit stiff. I want you to make a note of that. Be aware that there's a sensation that's occurring there. But I want you to note it in a specific way. I want you to note, just label the sensation itself without going into the painfulness of it or why it's happening. It's important that you're able to be with the physical sensation without subjectifying it. As soon as it becomes subjectified, as soon as you take that sensation personally, then you've got the situation of my painful knee. My painful knee is a concept. It's a combination of things. It's a combination of knee, pain, and my painful knee. There's a physical sensation there. There's mental unpleasantness. And then there's the subjectification or the personification of that sensation, taking it personally. If that happens, you're already in dukkha. You're experiencing dukkha. There's a person who's taking ownership of that physical sensation, and then suffering is occurring. What's important for us is to recognize the sensation can be occurring, but you don't have to own it. It's not yours. Something horrible, why do you pick it up? You don't see something dirty on the street and think, oh, look at that, I'll have some of that. No. Don't pick up the physical sensation in your body either. No need to. Of course it's there. If you want to own it, if you're used to owning and getting and grasping and holding, then your life is going to be full of suffering. The more you hold and grasp, the more you take things personally, the more dukkha you have. When you have a great deal of sense of self, when you have a lot of self, you have a lot of dukkha. You have a little bit of self, you have a little bit of dukkha. You have no self, no dukkha. Your experience of suffering is dependent upon how much you identify with the objects. If you're identifying a lot with them, mind states and physical sensations, you'll have an enormous amount of suffering in your life. If you're able to step back from them and just observe them, note them and know them, there won't be any suffering. It'll be like our nun down the bottom of the hill there. Just said after lunch, I said, how are you? She said, sabai, pleasant. She's always pleasant. Just sitting there in the hut 30 years. Amazing woman. Whatever comes her way, she smiles. She doesn't take any of it personally. Things come and go, so what? So if you pick things up, they're heavy. If you leave them where they are, well, you won't suffer so much. So how do we note painful physical sensations? When something's arising, if there's a stabbing in your back or something, it can be really sore. Sometimes a little knot will start to develop there. Rising, falling, sitting, touching, rising, falling, sitting, touching, rising, falling, sitting. If something becomes so strong that you can no longer concentrate on your cycling, then you'll have to turn your attention to it. I want you to direct your attention and put your mind on that spot. I want you to try and penetrate into that physical sensation and just hold your mind there for a few moments and just try to experience that sensation without experiencing anything else, without taking ownership of it, without liking or disliking it, without rejecting it, without the intention of trying to get rid of it. just go there with the intention of knowing whatever it is. If there's any kind of fear or something like that, if you're sitting there, when you start to conceptualize, oh, the blood stopped running to my legs, I'm probably going to end up in a wheelchair after this retreat, and you start to have fear like that, make a note of that fear. It's not going to happen, but the mind can get worried about its little precious body. It normally loves it so much. So I want you to note the physical sensation. Do not note the pain. It's not necessary for you to note the pain. Just note the aching. Try to label it correctly. It doesn't have to be perfectly exactly. I don't want you to hunt for a special word. What is that sensation? And start thinking about your vocabulary. Do it in your own language if you want to. You can use your own language, it's fine. But just make a note of it. Aching, or burning. If your ankle's on fire, burning, twisting, whatever it is. Make a note of it and just stay there for a moment. And then come back. Rising, falling, sitting, touching. Rising, falling, sitting, touching. Rising, falling, sitting, touching. Aching. Rising, falling, sitting, touching. Rising, falling, sitting, touching. Rising, falling, sitting. Aching. Make sure you direct your attention to the spot. Make sure you try to penetrate and find the center of that sensation. As you do that, I want you to notice what happens. It may take 3 or 4 times for you to complete this procedure, but I want you to make a note of what happens after you've noted it. Does the physical sensation increase? If it does increase, make a note, increasing. Sometimes it does. It's going along okay, and you put your mind there, and all of a sudden it's like a magnifying glass. The pain becomes worse. What am I doing? Make a note, increasing. Sometimes it decreases. Sometimes the physical sensation will completely disappear. It just pops away. I don't know where it goes. Sometimes it changes position. You'll be noting away here, and then all of a sudden it's over. Just make a note that it's changed position. Why it does that, I can't answer. But it does. It moves around. Dukkha is mobile. It seems to be able to travel through this organism. It's constantly manifesting. Constantly. Sometimes stronger than other times. So I want you to try and do this and repeat, and please note if there's any aversion in your mind. In the beginning stages of such practices, there can be aversion that starts to arise. You really hate that painful. I really hate that little spot in the back. It's ruining my retreat. It's been there for days. You'll sit there and how was your retreat? Awful. There was a knot in my back. Okay, so these things do come up. Be aware. Note any fear that may arise. Fear of damage, that is. You think maybe the body's going to be damaged permanently. If there's any aversion towards these physical sensations, develop your energy, develop your patience, develop your forbearance, and try to get through it. That's the first stage. That's the first way of noting. That's a normal and regular technique. The second technique is for those meditators who we call Dharma warriors, those kind of tough guys that kind of think, right, I'm going to get this one. When something unpleasant starts to arise in the body, and we're going to go for it. So we don't muck around, rising, falling, sitting, touching, rising, falling, sitting, touching, rising, falling, sitting. And then something starts burning in your ankle there after you've been sitting for an hour or two, and it's really starting to get painful. So direct your attention there, penetrate into the sensation, penetrate into the center of that physical sensation and hold your mind there. Don't let go. No need for you to come back. Just hold it there and just note burning, burning, burning. See what happens? Hold it there. Continue, continue. Burning, burning, burning. Keep holding it there. Keep holding it there. The body may start to shake a little bit. It's okay. Don't panic yet. You may start sweating a little bit. Yeah, and that's okay as well. You may have to clench your teeth. Bite down really hard. Put your hands together. Really. Okay. Now you're going to go for it. Really get into that sensation. It'll probably be joined with unpleasant feeling. In fact, it will be joined with unpleasant feeling. There's some unpleasantness there. Make a note of the unpleasantness. Oh, look, there's some unpleasantness arising. Yeah. Don't take it personally. It's not yours. But keep noting. If it really becomes too much and the body's shaking a bit, this is ridiculous, what am I doing? Then you can come back to the rise and fall, just for a few rounds, to give you a little bit of a break from it, and then get back in there and really start to drill it. Yeah, with an electric drill, drill into that burning sensation until you're right in the middle of it, until it comes up and completely surrounds your entire consciousness. And stay in there. And note, note, note. It may take 5 or 10 minutes. It may take half an hour for the first wave of the dukkha to subside. But if you can keep going like this, noting aching, 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 and then boom, it'll burst. It'll burst open. Wisdom is more powerful than the defilements of aversion that we have towards it. You'll find that your experience breaks apart. The physicality, the physical sensation will still be there, still ongoing, but the feeling, the unpleasantness will be completely separated from it. In fact, it'll turn into a neutral feeling. Consciousness, the knowing, will also be separate in the experience. Your little tight, personalized, my painful knee will explode into consciousness, feeling, and physical sensation. And you'll be able to see things as they really are. At this point, there won't be any identification with that physical sensation. At that point, you've blown it up and it's gone. You can keep sitting. If this happens, I want you to make a note. Knowing, 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 knowing that moment, seeing it clearly. It will give you a lot of release. You'll feel happy at the end of the sitting, at least, if you can do that. So, give that a chance for those of you who want to. It's encouraged. Somewhere along the retreat where you have a painful feeling, try to bust it open using your awareness and wisdom in the present moment. You'll need energy to be able to do that. Once you pass that stage, you'll find that, in fact, the physical sensations don't arise so much anymore. I should warn you, however, that there are waves of dukkha that come. There's a stage that comes about after an hour and a half, which becomes quite painful. And then another one at about 2.5 hours. And then there's a big one that kicks in just over 3 hours. And that's the one where your bones start shaking. And it feels like someone has poured some molten lead into your bones. And you think the body is actually going to die. Yeah. Give it a go if you want to. Yeah. You'll find that in this type of object, it's associated with extremely painful feeling, and that will keep you alive and alert. There won't be any time for any drowsiness or laziness. The hindrances are completely disappeared. If you allow any moment of slackness, that dukkha will just collapse you. So you need to be right there with it. It's a great technique, but it's not for everyone. But give it a go. I think that's enough for this afternoon.